It's Juice Bag.
Maybe I'll go higher on this one.
It's Juice Bag.
So it's juice. Let's just do a few like juice bags.
Juice Bag.
I think we should do hip hop hype beast.
Okay.
Juice Bag.
Noise.
Okay.
Hey. We're happy to have you guys here. This is Juice Bag, as you heard. Very lovely intro music done by Tuck, Dakota's little brother. Tucker.
You can find them on Spotify.
Yeah. So, you may know us from the previous podcast we had.
The hottest podcast ever to be made.
It got so much traction, and New York Times talked about us so much that we decided to sell the company.
We liquidated all of our assets.
Yes. And
Regrouped.
now we live in Silicon Valley, and we're starting a new podcast.
Silicon Valley is really hot. Seems a lot like Philly.
Yeah.
It's weird.
Really warm here.
It's a little warm.
Just kidding. We started a movie review podcast called Ticket Talk that we loved so dearly, and it was so much fun to do together. But we found not even our closest family members wanted to listen to it because no one watches the movies that we watch, because we watch a lot of movies and they are very niche. So we decided to bring our strengths to the table.
We wanted to make sure that we could talk about stuff that we actually cared about. We do care about movies, but I felt like we were in a box.
Yeah,
and that
sometimes
was
it was
the
a
lesson
stretch.
we learned from our first ever podcast, was that you gotta let yourself be free, man.
Yeah, let's be free.
Let's get some kind of a format though, right?
Right.
So we know it's a new podcast. Let's start with the date. What's today's date?
Today is August 14th, 2023.
And then vibe check. How you feeling?
Well, here. Just getting over a cold, so I would have to say 7 out of 10. 7 out of 10. I do have a secret, though. Something that's helping me. I'm having some energy drink. So
You're having energy drink?
with a tish of Dayquil.
Bro.
So I think my answer is a little bit padded because
I thought that was water.
Nope. It's so great that it's clear because you can never judge me that I'm drinking an energy drink. So anyway, Mama had her juice.
Mm-hmm.
It's, later in the evening. It's kind of a hot day. We had some low points before, like earlier this month, of just like getting things together. But emotionally, I would say today's been one of my better days. I had a good night's sleep, feeling healthy, feeling wealthy, feeling
Happy.
young and free. 7. How about you?
I'm feeling like I'll do like a 6.5.
Oh.
Yeah, I could be better.
Always
I
trying to
have-
sound worse than me.
Stop it. It's not a competition. I did not sleep very well last night. I
Those are
kept
the worst.
having Delulu thoughts. I was like planning trips that didn't even exist. I've been pretty stressed at work lately just because it's been picking up quite a bit. And like I've been given my own like individual projects and stuff. It's been a little nuts. But I mean, aside from that, it's just been, I've been sick too. Haven't been sleeping well. It's been hot. But that's what this podcast is about. The thing that we learned about our first podcast is that basically we were the only ones listening to it anyway, so we might as well make it what we want it to be. And I wanted to catalog our lives a little bit more.
Yeah,
and if people find it interesting, they're more than welcome to listen to.
Yeah.
But
The way I view it, you can correct me if you have different thoughts, but it's like kind of like how vloggers vlog their lives or do like updates in that way. That's what this is. Like all of our family is long distance, so I feel like it would be interesting to make this kind of like a weekly diary of what we have going on and kind of our inner monologues, and share little bits of ourselves for people who don't get to see us as often. And hopefully we can kind of build a community around that too, and maybe sneak in a wee bit of advice, because I think we're told we give good advice.
I agree. And since this is the first episode and we're already way off the rails, should we explain where we got the name Juice Bag from? What this whole thing is about?
That would be really good to explain.
We should probably explain.
Do you want to try or should I?
I'll take a swing at it. I
Okay.
know it's your term and that you kind of came up with it, but here's the sitch, folks.
Yes.
Is that Jett and I acknowledge that we are just bags of meat. We're little souls sucked out of the ether, thrown into a bag of meat that's like subject to all these like chemical imbalances and hormones and Are you this? Are you that?
Are you hangry? Are you sleepy?
hangry? Do you want to break up with your husband, or do you just want a burger. Like, it's all kinds of stuff. And we acknowledge that we are that. We acknowledge that we're just juice bags and we're just like trying to vibe out. And sometimes like this day, you don't sleep very well and you're really hot and sweaty and you don't really want to do a podcast, but you still want to do a podcast because you want to hang out with your other juice bag who's staring at you right now being like, wow, you're really screwing up this intro.
No, I feel like I could give like an example of how it's kind of turned into a mantra, I suppose, in our relationship, or just something that we say really often and why it fits with the podcast is like, so day to day, if like as a woman personally, month over month, I have fluctuating hormones. Therefore, on days where I'm like literally being rude to you for no reason, I take a moment to reflect. I'm like, you know, I really do love this man, but for some reason, I just want to be rude to him all the time. Just like tell or stick it to the man or whatever. Like that's just the mood I'm in. And upon reflection, I'm like, oh, it's my juice bag. And by that, I mean, I'm not necessarily in control of my ship as much as I normally would be. And it's the juices that are flowing through my body that are manning the ship and guiding me through my reactions. So
no, exactly. And I think this is like the perfect podcast for those of us who are transitioning from our 20s into our 30s as we're realizing, oh no, I don't have IBS. I just have been eating cheese forever.
That's triggering.
It is triggering.
We'll
Somebody
get
can
there.
relate to that. But just like, we're so subject to the context around us. And the more you become aware of that, the more you can just be like, I don't take life seriously. Try not to take life so seriously. I'm still trying. I still have like stuff I want to do, save the world and all this stuff. But, you know,
We all have
the
our
closer I get to
complexes.
that 30 number, I'm just like, I'm just chilling, man.
Yeah.
I'm very thankful for everything I've overcome, where I am now. And I just want to share the good vibes with all the people out there. You know what I mean?
But the point of Juice Bag is to remind ourselves that we're just like bodies. We're just bags of juice floating around, existing, experiencing the world, taking it at face value and sometimes reacting poorly and like might need some help deciphering if it's our juice bag or us guiding us through our actions or whatever. So yeah, with that being said, should we dive into some life updates and really get to this diary?
Let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay.
Okay, I'm going to get a little bit more energy. Maybe I'll have some of your energy drink.
Okay.
Let me sip this.
Welcome to my energy drink.
Wow. That is a lot.
Zing.
That is a lot of flavor for something that's clear.
Yep.
That tastes like cancer.
It's good.
Wow. Wow. That was a lot. What do you want to talk about?
Well, I think so I touched on, so if we have any people who aren't family listening, I touched on how we live long distance from our family. So
That's a relatively new thing for us, too.
Yeah. So we grew up in the Boise Valley. Our relationship history is that we met when we were 12. We started dating when we were 13. And we literally never stopped.
Yeah.
And I'm almost 28. So long story short, we're from the state of Idaho. And we were like basically born and raised there, grew up there, went to college there. And then once Dakota was done with his master's degree, we hippity hopped over to the greater Philadelphia area, which is quite the juxtaposition. I don't know how to really explain it. I'm sure we'll like divulge how differently like Philly and Idaho are.
I'm sure it'll come out multiple times. But
yeah, we had quite the like culture shock coming over here, but that's what we were pursuing. But long story short, we moved away from both of our families because we're technically middle school sweethearts. So both of our families and like now grown siblings and parents all live in that area. And we're the only little birds that flew the coop.
Yeah. And like, let me tell you guys, when you move across the country with one person that you met in middle school, and then I've never questioned why I was with you, but I do question how we're still together
I
sometimes.
know.
It's just insane. We're like such a bonded pair.
Just like in theory, not like how did we make it, but more like,
but it makes you think. It really does make you think. And for me, it makes me think about like growth and like what even success is, because like we have success in our relationship technically or whatever. But you reflect on like your life up until now and you're like, man, like what moves did I make that brought me here? And I feel like that's what I want out of this podcast, is to just talk about my past, figure out where I'm going, what's worth going to, what's not worth going to.
Yeah, deciphering if moving across the country was worth it or not. Like,
Yeah.
we can unpack that with you guys as we go along and see how we feel.
Spoilers.
We're
Maybe
not
for
sure.
Philly.
Don't
know about Philly, but that's okay.
So, I mean, okay, we'll get into it a little bit. But, so what I was trying to say, forgive us, guys, if we're clearing our throats and coughing, by the way. We literally are just getting over like a 2-week-old
We
cold.
also, this is our first episode. You've listened to the first episode of a podcast. We're all over the place,
Yeah.
but we're getting it figured out.
It's fine. So my big update as of late is that we are approaching our 1-year anniversary of moving to Philadelphia.
Mm-hmm.
Or I always feel like I need to explain. We don't live in the city, Philadelphia. We live in like one of the closest suburbs to the city.
We live in Delco,
live
Delaware
in
County.
Delaware
Tina Fey is
County.
from here.
Yeah.
We live pretty close to the very famous Pika's Pizzeria. Tina Fey's
I'm pretty sure
favorite
you're
pizza.
the only person who like really clings to the fact that
Not
it's famous.
True.
It's fine. I'll let you have that one. But yeah, so we live in like a smaller borough outside of the city, but we're only like a 20-minute train ride into Center City. So we kind of get the best of both worlds of access to all the entertainment and things, but also we live in like a historic house with a yard and can have cars and all that. So
Yeah.
Little bit of
maybe we should do like a Philly retrospective in the eyes of people who have been here for only like almost a year. Yeah.
okay, you start.
Well, so we moved here in September, correct?
On September 6th, 2022.
We moved here on September 26th. No, I already messed
September
it up.
6th.
September 6th, 2022.
Yes.
We immediately left to go to New York to go see a Harry
God.
Styles concert.
Yeah.
Which was sick. It was the first time we'd ever been in New York. And that was just the first like slap across the face culture shock of like, we now live in a city where we can go to the Big Apple whenever we want,
Yeah.
basically. It's
Yeah.
like a $30 train ticket to go spend the entire day up in New York.
Give or take. Yeah, it's only like an hour and a half train ride, so you can take a day trip pretty easy if you wanted to.
The access is incredible to all the stuff that we have available to us. And like when we first got here, the first like few months, we had FOMO at the wazoo. We were living in kind of a bougier out there suburb when we first moved here. We were renting from a
Yeah.
place. It was like a friend of a friend's house. And it was the only place that we could get. We could barely afford it. It was very expensive.
Oh,
but
yeah.
they
Oh, my
allowed
God.
pets.
That's triggering.
Can you remember how much that was?
It was more than our mortgage.
Wasn't that like...
It was,
Should we say the number?
It was $3,000 a month, I think, to rent.
Insane. It was like a full house. Like it was nice.
Thank God we only rented it for 1 month.
Yeah.
We were in and out of there so fast.
No, guys, we bought a house in a month.
Yes.
After moving here, and we had only spent a week in Philly. It was insane.
Yep.
But anyway, back to the whole experience. Like we're crazy. We're madmen. We bought this house in a month. Blah blah blah. But also just like the immediate culture shock of coming to the East Coast, moving to Philly. And then the reason we chose Philly is that it's in the middle of everything. We could like pop down to Baltimore. We could like go to Washington, D.C. We can go to New York. All these places that
And
we
the
had never
ocean.
been to. Jett is a huge proponent of the ocean. I tolerate it.
Jersey Shore.
And it's
Home of the
been-
Snooki.
Stop it right now. You're going to be wearing a bun here soon.
It's a bump it, but I'll let that go.
No, but I feel like the first few months were like awesome. And like I was like super FOMO because it seemed like every night there was something going on. It's
Yeah.
like Ed Sheeran's in town and he's handing out, cheesesteaks at Geno's and stuff. And it's like everything's happening all at once.
There's concerts.
Yeah.
Where there's an NFL team. There's a NHL team. There's baseball. There's basketball. Like any sporting event, any concert, any like even like small town farmers market. Like just pick your borough over here. You could go to probably 5 farmers markets in the same day, all within 15 minutes of each other.
Yeah. And those of you who are listening who are from the East Coast, you're like, this is really boring. This does not happen in rural Idaho
No.
or rural Washington, which is where we're from.
Yeah.
We had to drive an hour to go to Spokane so that we could see a Spokane Chiefs hockey game.
Yeah.
That was the height of entertainment for us. So it was quite the awakening. It was
Yeah.
very cool.
Yeah. So basically, and Harry Styles was in his prime, and it was my birthday's on September 8th. Shout out Virgos out there.
Boo,
you know who you are.
Virgos. Boo.
So if you have TikTok and if you know how things were going in 2022, Harry Styles was all the craze. For my 27th birthday and in victory that how the heck did we make a cross country move with 3 cats and a pug and all of our belongings and actually accomplish this, we unpacked into our rental house, slept one night, woke up the next day, and for 24 hours went up to New York City, watched Harry Styles at Madison Square Garden, and then took the train back home. And then we like settled in to the rental house. So pretty crazy.
It was pretty crazy.
It was pretty crazy. But that's why we did it. Is like to take on adventure and see the big cities and like experience whatever jobs we could find out here where, you know, there's growth and opportunity and just like so many avenues you could pursue. Whereas like we had basically peaked and could very clearly see our futures if we stayed where we were at, which were totally fine futures. But that was kind of it. It was like, okay, well, we're kind of bored. Is it time to like have kids or do something else? And it was like, okay, let's go do something else. So that's why we moved across the country.
No, that was exactly the reason why we moved across the country. When did reality hit when we moved to Philly?
Ooh.
I want to say it was bliss. It was absolute bliss when we got over here for a few months. And then we got our new house and we got to decorate it. And our house is beautiful, guys. It's so nice. And our kitties love it. And our pug loves it. And our neighborhood is great and everything. And then life comes back into perspective. And you're
when
like...
did it hit for you? Do you have like a moment? Really?
Recently. Which I think is why I've been a little bit lately. Because
interesting.
I think it's temporary. Like, I think the realities of life are temporarily hitting me a little bit more because I have been very enthused by Philly. I really like Philly. I like Philadelphia a lot, despite all the crime and violence and the god awful drivers. You guys are the worst drivers on the planet. I will not lie.
Oh my god, you all are crazy.
You guys are crazy. Like, I don't even feel like saying that you're bad drivers is not accurate. You guys are deliberately violent drivers.
Yes. It is. The way I explain it to people who haven't been here is it is the modern day Wild West.
It really is.
It is a lawless land of just build your own adventure and dodge who you can.
Yeah. It's insane.
Yeah.
And that was the one drawback. Everything else about Philly has been great, honestly. But the realities of moving to Philly really started to kick in when we started doing the boring things like, oh, we have to get insurance. Oh, we have to switch banks. Oh, we just got new jobs and now we have to switch all of our bank rounding numbers again. Oh, I'm on the phone with insurance again. Like, it's just, it all catches back up and the kind of euphoric feel of like, oh, it's great. We moved here in fall. It's going to be cool all the time. And now it's hot. It's muggy. It's humid. I have to talk to East Coast insurance people who are the most apathetic dingbats I've ever met in my entire life. Excuse me. And I hate it.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say it hasn't hit me like just recently. I feel like every other month I have like a bad week that kind of freaks me out. So mine hasn't come in at one swoop.
Is that I started having bad weeks again. I was not having any bad weeks up until like 2 months ago.
I did even in our rental house. And I think it was honestly when I don't sleep well, my juice bag gets screwed up. So that's kind of what happens. And we have not been sleeping well lately because it's so hot.
It's always been the heat. Yeah.
And the thing we're not used to is the humidity too. It's like you're sticky.
Yeah.
You feel sweaty so fast just because like all the condensation gets on you.
We won't get into it. Everyone knows what humidity is like, but it's everywhere.
Yeah, we're used to a dry heat. So it's just our first summer in a wet heat and it's just an adjustment.
It's horrible.
And our house doesn't have like central AC. So just like trying to figure all that out obviously makes sleeping difficult. But I feel like my big points of being like, whew, I don't know if Philly's for me or just like greater Philly or even densely populated East Coast as a whole seems just packed with people. The first time was you and I we're schedule routine people.
Yeah.
So on Thursdays we had decided to have solo nights to make sure, because at that time we both worked from home and we were only home. We were the only people we knew. And so we spent literally 24/7 together every single day. And we're like, you're getting a little annoying. I need to go out on a Thursday night just to do something else.
Yeah.
So I think I had my first realizations, especially I feel like as a woman, and I'm a relatively like guarded person. I've always kind of been a defensive person. I felt just not all that safe everywhere. And so that's something for me that kind of, was in the back of my mind always about, being careful. And when I had those solo nights, I always felt a little bit nervous about where I would pick to go. And that's when I had my first like, oh shoot, like I'm not quite sure how to feel, because nowhere feels comfortable, which makes me feel like nowhere feels safe. And so that kind of made me feel like lost for like a safe space to just like hang out or go to a coffee shop or read a book or something. I just didn't have a safe space that I knew I could go to. It's like, I'm sure they were out there, but I just couldn't find them.
Yeah.
That was my first like, oh God, okay. And then I would say lately I've learned kind of what a city summer is like. Like I'm talking cities. So like in Philly, basically, I have lost my interest to go to Philly as a whole in the summer months, because I think what happens is everyone's
we've been
AC
to Philly
sucks.
proper like 5 times in the past
summer.
like 2 or 3 months.
Yeah, which before we were going like once a week in like the winter and fall. But yeah, so I just feel like everybody's AC sucks in their houses. So there's just so many more people on the streets. And of course, that includes any type of person you could possibly think of. So you just like have...
And also people's pets peeing on everything. It smells horrible.
Yeah, it gets real smelly. And there's like trash and stuff. So anyway, usually I mean, I can put up with that. But when it's like hot outside, it cooks and just everything smells like hot pee. So you're like, maybe I don't want to spend time there. So that's kind of been one of the things that I'm like kind of bummed about, because I always thought like I want to be a city girl once a week or something and take my little tote bag into the city and hang out for a spell. But yeah, I just haven't been interested lately. So it makes it kind of feel, I don't know, maybe a little bit more boring or something.
Well, the realities of like, so the rose-colored glasses have come off. And that's where I was going with like, we got here and there was everything to do all at once. We had FOMO every day. And then it's kind of like that old adage of like, an open invitation isn't an invitation at all. And it's like, if everything's happening all the time, it kind of becomes less interesting, because you always know the next thing's just right around the corner. And so it's like, oh, Jason Mraz is in town. Like maybe I'll go see him, but then fucking Diddy is right behind him. Like I'll go listen to some Diddy, It's just like, I'll pick it up next time. I'll pick it up next time. And then you haven't been out of the house in forever. And it's just like overwhelming, all the opportunities. And that leads me into my biggest one. My biggest kind of turn off of like this. It's not a turn off of the move. I'm very happy where we are. I want to make sure that I'm being explicit with that. But like the biggest point of my stressors lately in the past like few months that have led to a few of my bad weeks is the price of life over here.
I was about to segue into that.
Dude, it's insane. I genuinely... I don't know how you East Coasters can be so, first of all, openly rude and terrible drivers and all these like aggressive things, but you are willing to put up with the cost of all this dog crap all over the place. I don't want to cuss, but it's ridiculous. Like the cost of tolls, the cost of groceries, the cost of tickets to anything, the cost of gas, the cost of... I mean, Jesus, living in your house, like
the combination,
taxes are insane.
Yeah, I feel like I can add some like figures to this. So back in Washington State, our electric bill for the same size house that we have now with the similar appliances and things, it's like $150 a month, and that was high.
Yeah.
Over here, we've had bills up to like $650 for electric alone.
Yeah.
And that's been
just for
shocking.
Utility bills, dude.
Like some people just pay that in rent alone. And like, I feel like I have to add the caveat that like, we know we are fortunate. We live in a big house. We made our bed. Now we got to lie in it, but we just hadn't done research. We had no idea, because this is our second house we've owned, that like that could fluctuate. Like I expected, like, oh, maybe it'd go up
But
25 bucks.
Also, we bought a house that was cheaper than the one we sold.
Yeah.
We also bought a house that was slightly smaller than the one we sold.
Yeah.
And we were paying nearly triple in everything associated with
Yeah.
the house. It's insane.
And we chose Philly because in East Coast terms, this close to a major city, it's one of the most affordable places to live compared to like New York and DC.
Well, and also we live really close to a train line that takes you directly into Philly, which is
Right.
a huge benefit
Right.
and did increase the price
Right.
a lot. But.
And then with groceries, like I used to take for granted my favorite grocery store where we came from called Winco.
Shout out Winco,
We
baby.
love you, Winco.
Winning company.
Yeah.
Love you.
So compared to over here, the cheapest groceries I can get for just the two of us, and we are modest grocery shoppers, like
No, yeah.
essentials only. Like I do try to get like good, quality stuff when I can, but I'm like shopping at Aldi. Like I'm not going anywhere fancy over here. It's literally double groceries,
Literally.
which I'm sure inflation has something to do with it, but also like, yeah.
And there have been so many times when you've brought home like produce and stuff and it's literally just rotten. It's just
Yep.
like in the bag rotten. I don't even get it.
Yeah, it's almost kind of eerie too. Something I didn't realize as far as like something I talked a lot about with locals. Apparently it was a, hot button subject for me because I brought it up with a lot of people, was groceries. And they were all like, oh yeah, in densely populated areas like this, what they do is they have huge food distribution centers and there are buyers and then it gets distributed all from the same place.
Yeah,
So
bro.
like the only outliers are like Whole Foods, but like the price with that comes like quadruple even what, the expensive
Whole Foods
groceries
is
already are over here.
insane.
So no matter which grocery store you're going to, you're getting the same
It's the
quality
same
produce.
stuff, guys. It's the same
It's just
stuff.
branded differently. That felt very eerie to me.
Yeah.
And
especially after a pandemic, dude.
yes.
That's insane.
Yes. Is like if there's shortages, like I feel like this would be a madhouse. Like if the pandemic was going on and we lived here, I feel like I would be having a panic attack because back home in small town America, people were, not emptying the grocery stores. They were pretty picked through. I bet over here.
But even then, like I genuinely by name knew like 5 farmers I
Yeah.
could probably go
Yeah.
to get like produce if
in
I
an
really needed
emergency.
to.
Yeah. So anyway, that's just so different. But I feel like we should talk about some of the things we've really loved too, because I don't want to get too into the
we
weeds.
won't get. I was just
No, gripes are
Yeah.
easier to say than win sometimes.
I
but-
was just trying to acknowledge that the reason for this podcast is that we're in the less euphoric state. We're more
Right.
subject to our juice bag and stuff like that. So it hasn't all been bad. In
Right.
fact, it's mostly been good.
Yes.
It's just recently, and probably because I have a cold, my mind's just in the gutter. But like,
Yeah.
it's just recently been a little bit like, oh my god, like come on, Philly, quit being hot.
yeah. We're just kind of like running
Yeah.
from the heat at this point. So
And from the germs, my goodness.
yeah, that's true. I feel like every time we go to the movies, I have some new bug.
Sorry, I'm trying to swallow.
You're good. So some of my favorite things obviously are the house and like the street we live on.
Yeah.
I feel like we really lucked out in like the borough we're in. And I like we mentioned, we bought our house in like 30 days of just living over here, which if you've bought a house, you know how quick that is because that's the amount usually it takes to close on a home.
Yeah.
So we had purchased this place.
Bro, we were looking every day
Yeah.
at houses.
Like
it was insane.
Mad Men.
In fact, we're now like basically personal friends with our realtor because we spent so much time.
Yeah, it was a mad dash. We were Despacito. And so honestly, we put an offer in at a house that cost like almost double what this one does and backed out. Well, when they countered, we were just like, change our mind.
Well, we made that offer and then immediately regretted it because we knew it.
We're like,
Yeah.
we don't want to mortgage that.
And it ended up selling a few months later for like 60,000 less than
Yeah.
what we offered, which oof,
Yeah. would've
dodged
been
that
kinda
bullet.
crazy. But long story short, we were desperate for housing. And honestly, I don't know what kind of cuckoo bananas mood I was in when I looked at this house and didn't like it.
Yeah, actually,
that
that's
crazy?
a story I
So
forget.
yeah, so we had owned a 3-story historic home cottage that we loved where we came from, but I had made a vow that I was not, it's just the two of us and pets. I'm like, we do not need a 3-story house. Like, in what world? And also, we don't need a huge yard because we don't have the freaking time. We're dual income, hardworking, full-time people who don't have time to just like mess around all the time, be dusting 3 floors of freaking furniture.
And then what did we do?
Then we bought an exact replica of our last house. So we looked at the house and I was telling you, I was like, no, like absolutely not. It's too big. Nope, I don't even like it. I don't even think I like it.
I think that was the only reason you had was that it was too big.
It was. And honestly, I also said that the floors in here weren't finished enough, but now I'm like, what was I thinking?
No, I have no idea what you were smoking.
So, anywho, once I got past that, like, and we moved in here and we got to furnish it, like, we were a little cash rich from the sale of our house, so I felt pretty bougie going around buying like new IKEA furniture and like scoring some like vintage pieces for the house, and like really into. Oh, there's our kitty Niles making
He's
a cameo.
complaining about the heat too. No.
But yeah, just like decorating the house, and like we got some mid-century pieces like from an actual collector that are just so beautiful, and that I feel like makes the house really feel like ours, because our house isn't just filled with like hand-me-downs from our early 20s and like college days. It's like everything in this house is curated exactly how our budget has allowed us to, but like it's fantastic.
It seriously is. I love this house. I love this house more than our old house,
Me
which
too.
I thought I would die in.
Me
because
too.
Our old house, guys, had like a stream. I had like a 1,200 square foot wood shop, like a straight up wood shop. It was sick. And I feel like I would take this house 100 times out of 100. I love it here so much. It's
Me
beautiful. Natural light. It's got a skylight in it. The kitchen's beautiful. Like, I love just turning a corner and seeing you in here because we're always happy. It's such a vibe. I love this place. But my thing was our neighborhood. I love our neighborhood so much. Our neighbors are so nice.
They are really nice.
Like, we're talking immediately inviting us to like dinner parties. Our neighbor across the street knitted us hats. We made all of them cookies. Like, it's sick. And like, we just got brand new next door neighbors, and they're so fucking nice.
Yeah.
They're so nice. We've had them over for coffee. They're from New York. They talk and they talk, and I love it, and I love it, and I just eat it up. I love it so much.
Yeah, it's really wholesome here, and I feel like it must be the close quarters or something over in the East Coast, where these densely populated areas, they know that they need to be friendly to their neighbors. Yeah. And where we came from, it's like everybody wanted their space. Like everyone was kind of guarded back in like Idaho and Washington. So over here, I feel like people, like, they just have less emotional walls up to their neighbors, and they're more welcoming. So that's been really, really nice. Another thing I feel like I'm grateful for is my new job. Yeah.
Why?
Because I get to work from home. Yeah.
Something you've always wanted.
Yes. It just kind of hit me. I think yesterday I was reflecting on how much time I spend at this house. Like, this is your casa. Not only live here, and I also work here. So some days, like,
oh my God, maybe it could be a tax write-off. We could claim this as our office, start an LLC.
Yeah, there we go.
That'd be sick.
But my last job, some days I would have 12 or 14 hour days. I was the boss to 2 people.
Yeah.
I had a lot of job changes. I had a lot of things I was responsible for that I didn't necessarily have a passion for. And, I was in that career because, I was waiting for my husband to finish his master's degree, and, I had a good time, and I like being a good employee. But coming over here and starting a new job where I work in tech now, I'm a tech girly.
Seems a tech girly.
And I work from home, and Vito, our pug, sleeps in my office with me all day, sometimes on my lap. Like, I work out at home. I work at home. I live at home. I cook all my meals from scratch.
I think it's so funny how furnished your office gets, just more and more as I go in there. My office is like a blank open box. Jett's got like a Peloton and like a little vanity setup and like paintings and like vinyls and like her desk and stuff. It's so cool.
Yeah, it's like my little dojo. Yeah. So anyway, I was born and bred to work from home, and I feel like it has brought me so much mental clarity, and I have never been healthier. Like, I swear I have never been healthier.
You're genuinely glowing like
Yeah.
every day.
Yeah.
I just can't stop looking at you most
I
of the time.
feel it. I feel alive.
Good.
And that's
I'm
been,
hoping to get there.
we all have our journeys and our priorities. For me, like, moving into this home, and like, I knew I was having lots of like health issues with just like my immune system and my stomach.
Yeah.
A callback to the IBS issues. Like, I was diagnosed with IBS, and I was told to watch what I ate that wouldn't cause, triggers. And I cured my IBS just through foods I eat and being really careful. I've been alcohol, substance, dairy, and gluten-free for all of 2023.
Girl doesn't have pimples.
Yeah.
Girl's been losing weight like crazy. Her hair is like gaining lividity. She's glowing all the time. It's ridiculous.
Well, thank you.
I'm not kidding.
Well, I feel great because of it. And apparently all I needed was time and energy to be in my own home and like protect myself a little bit.
Well, and see, this is, maybe we could end off here. This is the last kind of thing I want to talk about, is like, with this big life goal of us moving across the country, we're in situations where, like, it's so funny because you come from a company where it was stereotypical for everyone to have golden handcuffs. You had like rusty bronze handcuffs where it's like you were underpaid and overworked.
Yeah.
And same with me. We were both like, people were shooing us out the door. But I feel like when you do a big move like that, a big life change, and you set up your life somewhere else, I feel like you learn something. You learn like a big something, and you heal something in you. And I'm curious what you think that was for you.
For me, I learned about personal and emotional boundaries through overkill. And then I learned about balance with boundaries.
That's right. That's right.
So basically in my last life, back when I worked, that's how I view it, honestly, because I feel like I've changed so much in the last year. But
it's funny too, because we were looking at yearbook photos last night, and we're like, who the hell are these weird kids?
Yeah, it's crazy.
Also, we were like so cute as kids. We're like glowing on the pages.
Yeah, that was fun. We hadn't done that in a while.
That was fun.
But yeah, I just feel like, before, back in like Idaho/Washington, I'm sure we'll get more into that later on, but I didn't have any personal boundaries as far as like health or just like work-life balance, and I didn't even know what was fair to fight for or advocate for myself. Even when I was just assuming what everyone wanted from me, and going above and beyond in ways people weren't even asking me to, and giving up my health and my mental state with like friendships and our relationship and my job and like everything I was putting my energy into. It just wasn't calculated in a way that, made sure I was doing okay.
Yeah.
And coming over here and having the space away from everything that was normal for me allowed me to like overcommit to boundaries. So like I ended some friendships. I have a lot of space from like family. I have obviously a whole new career, and I never see my boss really in person except at a random Christmas party. So I got tons of space and tons of boundaries and tons of work-life balance to where now I have all this room, and I realize I don't have to be quite so protective. And honestly, that overshooting your boundaries is actually just as destructive.
That's true.
As not having any. And so I want to be perceived, and I want to achieve being an open person who's willing to give and receive, but in fluctuations that serve me and serve others.
Wow.
So that's my biggest learning lesson.
That was amazing.
Thank you.
I really hope you don't ask me, because my answer is not going to be nearly as good.
Well, what's yours?
Oh, I don't know.
That you like hot dogs?
I was going to say I like hot dogs now. I like hockey. No, that seriously was great. And like it shows. It really does. I feel like you're genuinely like an inspiration to me specifically, because you don't have any other friends anymore. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm working on it. Okay, guys.
I know. I would say mine is kind of in the same vein, but differently. Like I felt like you definitely understood that we were both living in extremes in different categories. And you healed a lot physically. I feel like I healed a lot mentally. I feel like I really separated myself from this pretty borderline traumatic experience I had while going to college. Like, I went to college for 7 years. I was getting an undergrad and a graduate degree in architecture, which it's arguable, but if you look at some reports, like, it's one of the hardest degrees you can get. It's so demanding. We were the only building on campus that had a 24-hour access to the building. It was insane. We easily 100-hour weeks sometimes. Like, it was nuts. And I always thought that was what my life was going to be, was just never-ending work, thankless work, stress. And I was doing it all, and it was serving basically nobody except me, I thought. Then I realized it's not even serving me, because I'm just going to a job that I don't even like. And so after moving out here and kind of getting this new job and understanding boundaries again, not going to the extreme of like, I'm just going to be a workaholic, or I'm just going to be a apathetic ding dong that doesn't like to work and I'm just going to play video games all the time. Like, neither one of those spectrums is good. And so I landed somewhere in the middle, which is like, okay, work-life balance. I went to therapy for a while to understand how I was treating people and treating myself, and saw that I wasn't doing great in either category. And then I learned and I corrected, and I feel like I finally landed on my feet in that way, because I was I'm sure you remember, in a bad way mentally before we left. Oh, yeah?
No.
I was good?
You were good.
Oh, that's nice of you to say.
It wasn't good.
I was not good. No, I was causing Jett to have mental breakdowns.
Yeah, I can own some of my own stuff there, but yeah, we were helping fuel each other's fire.
Yeah, but I definitely feel like I got my shit together a little bit mentally. And
yeah,
I feel like I learned a lot. And, I'm not saying it takes a move across the country to do that, but it does take some space.
Yeah.
And you got a lot of space by basically ending everything. I got a lot of space by basically ending everything. I separated myself from my anxieties and all these stressful environments. I took some time to understand what I wanted and what I needed. And now I have a very set path and goals that are achievable, and things that I can do, and things that I can be proud of when I do achieve them. And then when I'm done with those, I can move on to creating another goal for myself, another place for growth, because I think my next one is going to be physically. I mean, I'm flirting with it now on like eating better, losing weight, and working out a little bit more consistently, but I feel like I gotta capitalize on this last bit for my mental stuff. Career stuff. Yeah,
I think that's beautiful. I think we're both growing.
We're trying to.
Yeah.
You ever notice how we sing when we don't know how to continue?
That's
Teach their own. Teach their own.
teach their own. Oh, you'll learn how we talk as you listen.
Yeah.
But anyway, I think that is enough banter and like diary time for now.
There's plenty.
I think let's hop into our little self promo here, and then we're going to come back to the podcast and we're going to answer some questions from the audience.
Sorry to interrupt this week's episode, folks, but we'd like to remind you that if you enjoy what you're listening to please consider subscribing and sharing our podcast. Also, don't forget to leave us a review on all major podcast platforms.
We're about to roll into our Q&A portion of the episode, so if you'd like to be featured next time, hop over to Instagram and submit your question to us at JuiceBagPod. Now let's get back to it.
Welcome back, everybody.
Welcome back. I'm harmonizing. What? I was harmonizing.
I was making you feel awkward on purpose.
Oh, that's rude.
I'm sorry.
That's not very nice of you to do, man.
I know, but it's fun to watch. No one gets to see your face while I do it. It's just quite entertaining to
I
me.
have a cute face.
You do, but you're fun to make fun of.
Okay, well, let's just get on with this.
Anyway, so as you know, we are going into the question/advice area of the podcast.
How would they know? They've never listened to an episode before.
Our pre-recorded promo lets them know.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
So, anywho, we are, as you know, this is our first episode in. So we had one write-in question, but the rest we found on like Reddit. So prepare thyself.
And if you ever want to send us a question, we'd be happy to answer it.
Yes, we have our Instagram page, Juice Bag Pod, that you can go to and
Make an anonymous one, even if you know us. Make an anonymous account. Send us all kinds of crazy
make
questions.
a
We'll
burner
answer 'em.
account. Yeah,
burner.
or you can just DM them and they will always be anonymous.
Yeah.
Not to us, but to everyone else.
We're gonna tell our cats.
Okay, so the first question that was actually written in.
Which, like, good for us.
Yeah.
Look
I
at
know.
us.
Look at us. Look at us.
Podcast number 2. We have a write-in.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So our first question is, how do you handle days where you're at drastically different energy levels? So as in within the relationship. And I feel like we can relate to that because that's every day almost of our lives. I feel
Yeah.
like.
Yeah.
So, different energy levels.
I feel like a lot of the time, at least in our experience, we tend to mirror one another. And if somebody's in a bad mood, it will normally bring the other person down.
Yep.
If the other person doesn't have enough strength to like lift them up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so,
Or if the person is so down and out, they just can't get there with
Yeah.
the positive person or the energetic person or whatever it may be.
and so I feel like the secret to this is probably understanding the likelihood of which outcome you're going to get.
Yep.
Because there are some days where you are just not coming out. And there are some days where I just don't want you to talk to me.
Yeah. Pretty much. So,
just
oh,
choked
Lord.
myself out.
Please don't die. So I would say for us, it's you. Well, okay. So of course there are various versions. We are not a perfect, couple at every single one of these situations.
No.
But I do feel like we do a pretty good job at mitigating most things that could escalate if we weren't aware of our juice bags, right? Name
Exactly.
of the podcast. It's like usually what happens is we notice that the other person is at a different energy level. And it's usually the positive person noticing someone sad or low
Exactly.
energy or tired or sick or whatever. And it starts with trying to pick them up, right? You're usually like, oh, do you want to do this? Do you want to do that? Should we eat some food? Should we drink some water? Should
Yeah.
we go on a walk? Do you want to go out tonight? Like that sort of energy. Or you're like, something that I do that sometimes doesn't land well is like, your love language a lot of the time is being like made fun of, or like not made fun of, but teased,
Yeah.
given
Yeah.
a hard time. And then all of a sudden you have a hard stop and you just like don't want to be played with anymore.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I feel like either one of us are trying to pick the other person's spirits up. And the kind of down in the dumps, low energy person has an opportunity. It is choose your fate as sad boy, low energy boy / girl, or can you make it out?
Yeah.
And there's a decision to be made. And I think it's like that tension is there. Like
It's the high energy person throws a life raft.
Right.
They are a full cup. This sad person is a almost empty cup. And
Yep.
so they pour a little in. They kind of poke and prod, try and see what it is. If somebody perks up when they hear the word ice cream, you know what you got.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Or me, it's like, do you want to go to the beach? I'm like, maybe.
Don't
That sounds kind of fun.
Yeah.
But yeah, so like you said, they throw out like a life raft
Yep.
or whatever.
They extend an olive branch, I think is what the saying is.
Yeah. And the
The person can choose to accept it
or not.
or not. And that's where this kind of balance comes in, which is
Usually
that
where
like
the attention rises.
sometimes it's okay if you don't want to accept the olive branch. I personally, I think that's okay. I know you've
Yeah.
done it. I
Yeah.
know I've done it. Sometimes but the person has to be aware and they have to be like, I think I need some time.
Yep. Some space.
Yeah.
Or whatever, which can be hard. It can be hard to give and receive that
Yes.
information.
Yes. And so the answer to this question, I feel like, lies in the title of the podcast, which is like a lot of this time, it is the juice bag that's driving the ship when somebody is low energy.
Yeah.
It's that person didn't sleep well. It's that person had a hard week and they are just kind of down in the dumps. Maybe they do need to pick me up. Maybe they do genuinely just need to eat something to get their energy up.
Something that's been a curveball for us that we've learned again and again lately is that the day or two before you get a cold,
Yes.
there's emotional outbursts too. Like for both of us, like we'll just be short with each other and be like, that was really random. I don't see how juice bag was related to that at all. And then 2 days later, we're like, have a fever. And we're like, oh,
Yep.
that was the virus entering my body.
Yeah.
And
Jett's grave is going to say, I had a bug.
Yeah.
Because she always says, I have a bug. And then she's a huge dick to me.
your girl is just like immunocompromised. I swear. Any virus or bug that I touch, I get.
Yeah.
And it, shows itself in its various forms.
Yeah. It's so the question is, how do you adapt to having different levels of energy?
Or just like deal with it in general.
Is that you learn how to deal with it. Truly. It's different per couple. I know that for us, it's a lot of poking and prodding. And if the empty cup person is receptive to the poking and prodding, normally it just needs a little bit more poking and prodding until they're eventually brought up. I can't tell you how many times you have pestered the shit out of me. And then you're like, I'm like so quiet and I don't even want to look at you, even though I love you. And you're like, hey, you remember that TV show we watched last night? And I'm like, wait, yeah, what TV show? And you're like, well, we watched SNL last night, the SNL episode where there was that guy who was like being hit on by like the teenage girls and it was like funny or whatever. It was like a joke. And then I say, oh, wait, I had a dream that I was that guy and I felt like a creep. And that's why I've been a weird, mean guy all day.
Yeah, you were like having this weird existential crisis.
This is an actual real
about
life
a bad
example.
dream you had.
Yeah.
And then we were like trying to unpack all day. Like we had tried everything. We had given you water. We had gone out to coffee. We went for a walk.
We were on our way back from like the best day ever.
Yeah.
And Jett was pestering me about it.
Yeah.
And I finally opened up and I was like, I just feel down in the dumps. Like I want to be a dad more than anything.
Yeah.
Like I love kids and stuff. And I had a dream where, and I didn't even connect it. I just woke up feeling icky. I just woke up feeling bad. I had a dream where like my daughter, my fake daughter, had a
Dream
sleepover at
daughter,
our house.
yeah.
And like one of their friends was like trying to hit on me. And I felt so creepy and nasty and vile about it. And then I remembered that we had watched an SNL skit the night before where literally that happened.
Yep. And I was like, Coda.
And I was just replaying it in my brain.
Yeah, it just like replayed in your mind.
When I say that I immediately, like my shoulders were slumped, they went back up, my neck extended, my eyes unblurred, and I was like, oh my God. And I was just so pissed off that I had wasted the day.
Yep.
Because it was just some stupid dream. And my juice bag was like punishing me for no reason because I relived an SNL skit in my brain. It was dumb.
Yeah. So I think my answer, like my final answer to this question is, of course it's situational. But my advice always would be to start with the juice bag. Treat yourself like a little plant.
Yeah, get your basic needs.
Food, water, sunlight, exercise.
Love.
Mm-hmm. Try that first.
Yep.
And if you feel like you need space, and like it could just be the suggestion to your partner, like, hey, maybe we should try some of these things, or if you want some of this, or I could help, or I could cook you something, or whatever. If you really want to pry them out, or if you don't have the energy or capacity to not like help them and like be mean or petty about it, like just give them space and then meet back up with them when they've had some alone time to like rest it out.
That has also worked where we have separated and I will go take a nap or you will go take a bath and then we come back together and you're like, I'm feeling better. And I'm like, yeah, my headache's kind of away and my woes are gone.
Yep. We can tolerate each other all over again.
It's just seeing each other where you are. Like you and I are mirrors to one another.
Yeah. And
we do mirror each other a lot. But as long as we know that we love each other and nothing we do is out of malice, it's just our juice bags driving for the time being. it's all fine.
Yeah.
You can react however you want, but just do it with courtesy and empathy and understand where that person is and try your best to pull them out of it. But then if you can't, go live your own life.
Yeah. And of course, you are going to be the best judge of your own relationship. I feel like Dakota and I opt for a positive, happy, like upbeat, loving environment. And so that's kind of our median.
Yeah.
So we are always
and there
trying
are
to
times
pursue
where
that.
like I'm in a good mood, but like I can't reach your level
Right.
of like you want to go dancing, you want to like ride scooters with Vito in a backpack, and I'm like, dude, no, like
Right.
can't we just go see a movie?
Right.
Yeah.
So there's emotional energy and there's like mental and like physical energy that's
Exactly.
separate. So
Yeah.
I feel like you just kind of have to judge it based on what your relationship's like median is,
Mm-hmm.
kind of bid to see if they'd like to achieve that median with you. And if they are either through emotions or actions showing to you that they are not interested in your bid
Mm-hmm.
to get to that median, it's time to give them space. And then you need to accept, not hold resentment. Like as long as they're being polite, of course. Like
Yeah.
this is following the rules. They're not abusive or terrible or telling you to shove off, like
Yeah.
calling you names, but like giving them their space and not holding resentment towards them, which can be very hard to do, especially when you're like, this person's a freaking Eeyore and they ruined my day because they don't want to be happy with me.
Yeah.
And I live with someone who's angry.
The worst thing you could do is generalize the situation.
Right.
Yeah.
So you just need to accept, you've addressed maybe the plant rules of
It's a dance,
food,
man.
water,
You poke,
shelter,
you prod,
sunlight.
you retreat, you come back, you check in, you check away. It's good. We're all here to support each other.
Yeah. And if you have lots of days like that in a row, it's time to communicate if something deeper is going on.
Maybe you pack up your plug and move to Philadelphia.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a systematic thing going on.
Yeah.
No, seriously. If it does happen a lot, consider
Yeah.
changing something in your life.
Have a heart to heart. Say, this ain't working.
Yeah. I know we had that, dude.
We've had it.
I don't know how much longer we want to stay on this question, but like we definitely had that where we got to a point where we're like, dude, if this keeps happening, we don't know if we're going to make it. Mm-hmm. And then we looked at everything and realized none of this is our fault. We're polishing a diamond. We're perfect. We're ditching. And then we ditched and
Yeah.
we're great. No, I'm just kidding. Obviously it wasn't that evil.
But
Or
yeah,
easy.
It just depends on where you're at in your relationship. Of course, Dakota and I have been together a long time. We're very comfortable. We know that our default is staying together and working towards, a monogamous, continual
It's priority
relationship
one all the time.
Yes.
It's every problem that we have, the solution is how do we keep the relationship moving forward
So-
every time without question.
Hopefully, in this case, whatever your median or whatever your deciding factors of being together or not are and what's worth it to you and what those boundaries are as a couple kind of determine how those conversations happen. But the default in that situation is that you want to pursue continuing to be together, which means you have to be brave enough to have those conversations.
Exactly.
Like I'd say if it happens for more than like 1 week in a row, like if you're going on 2 weeks or a month or many months.
That's a systematic issue.
Yes.
That's a different conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And, maybe if it's an earlier on relationship and you're only a few months into the relationship as a whole and they're all of a sudden showing their true colors that like they have a lot of trauma they haven't dealt with or just like a lot of emotional stuff going on in the background.
Addiction or a poor coping mechanism or
Right.
something like that. Like that's when, it turns into something else.
Right.
And, there's also a lot to be gained out of those conversations because you can learn how to relate better,
Right.
and how you can help that person. But at the same time, it's okay to preserve yourself. But I would say 9 times out of 10 for us with our problems, as far as like when we have mismatched energies, it's preservation of the relationship, which is you want to help me, I want to help you. We're on the same page. We move forward.
Go team, basically.
Go team.
Yep.
You want to
So-
move on to the next question?
Yeah. What you got?
What do I have?
Yeah. We're going to answer like 3 questions.
I have a real softball.
Okay.
I have a real softball. Let me just pull up my softball that I have prepared right now that I will be reading momentarily, and I'm reading now. How do you stop your partner from needing to overachieve?
Oh, is this coming from a personal place?
I'm not projecting at all. I'm not asking. But also, would you answer, please?
How do you stop them?
How do you help somebody get over the need to overachieve.
Oh, wow. You're just looking for straight advice from me.
No, dude, I'm
You
asking
start
for
then.
Gordy. I'm
You
asking for Gordy.
You start.
Probably tell him.
Well, Coda, how about you explain? Let's give them some background. We've alluded that you have overachievement problems.
I have overachievement problems.
Yeah, go
I
ahead.
have a save the world complex. It was bred into me in college. I'm totally excusing myself of any fault. It was bred into. No, I'm just kidding. I do have an overachieving complex, and I think it gets in the way of my ability sometimes to be happy. I feel like I have a lot of weight on my shoulders that is artificial, and I put on myself, and I put more and more of it every day. The more I learn about this and that in the news or whatever, and you're taught that architecture can change the world, and careers this, and overachieving that, and salary this, and all this stuff. And it's very hard, especially in this like hyper masculine, hyper patriarchy world, for me not to like want to overachieve all the time, even though I know it's not serving me as much as I would like it to.
Where do you think that stems from?
I mean, I think I already went over it. It's just like influence. It's like,
But what are the influences, do you think?
I think that's very funny.
Why?
No, I think the influences are a lot of social media of both sides, but also where I see myself in the future, and where I think you see me too. I know we talk a lot about, you wanting to be a stay-at-home mom and me wanting to be able to do that, but obviously that's a lot that I have to do that. It's a lot you have to do that too, to be fair. But yeah, it does put me in a position where I'm like, well, yeah, maybe I should strive for $1 million a year. Maybe I should try and open a business that sells gold wallets or something like that,
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing. I have some answers. I feel like, or advice, I suppose.
Yeah.
So
I thought this one could be a little bit more conversational.
Yeah. No, I think that was a really good question. I'm glad you picked it. So I love that you touched on the patriarchy as a whole, because that was going to be my first like nugget of reflection, is like, I feel like a lot of men and a lot of adult men that I've met, especially out in the city, like who are getting master's degrees or pursuing really difficult careers or like kind of workhorses, or I feel like
it's hard too, because I get a lot of satisfaction out of having a master's degree and having the salary I currently have and all this stuff. But it's just like, it's a never ending rat race. I just want more and more,
Yeah. And I think growing up, especially in a, I mean, we touched on this a little bit before, but last night we were going through our high school yearbooks together, and we reflected on like, there were some crazy photos that we came across in the yearbook that like were outwardly like racist or sexist or just not okay.
Yeah.
In our high school photo, like yearbooks, like in print. And we just were like in shock that, oh my God, that was our education.
Yeah.
So for you, and I feel like for a lot of people in America, in the era that we grew up in, which was, I would call us millennials, like the tail end of millennials, like the barely
Speak for yourself,
Gen
almost
Z.
28-year-old.
So I think for us though, that group of folks, like we were in the, times where people were throwing out slurs, at least in our small town, pretty regularly and flippantly.
Yeah,
and
that was a large reason why we left. Like Idaho is like the 49th state in
something like
education.
that. It's really
low. It's low.
So, we come from a background where the patriarchy is put on a pedestal, and that was what was modeled, especially because like back then housing was cheap enough where a lot of the time there was a stay-at-home mom usually and a father providing for everybody. And like there were so many like religious people around us too. Of course, that ties into everything everyone believes, and that definitely plays into it. But beyond that, I think a lot of, especially boys, unfortunately, I've seen a lot of men in their households, dads, like I'll raise my hand. My hand is raised. I have daddy issues galore. And I think there were not enough and are not enough good father figures who are emotionally stable and, you know, successful and doing other things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like with their families. And so a lot of boys, you, saw modeled behavior from father figures, or at least men in the community or people to look up to, who were not emotionally stable, or, you know, at least, or physically stable or around enough to model behavior that led to pride being earned from anywhere but a career. Because what did dads always do? They at least had a job.
Yeah.
You know, they would like leave their family in the dust, but they'd have a job. You know, there'd be at least enough money to feed the family.
Well, I agree with a lot of that. I think a lot of it was learned from context. I think a lot of it was learned from representation. But at the same time, my knee-jerk reaction is to correct that in my future and for my kids by overachieving.
Yes.
And making sure that I can make enough generational wealth to where my kid doesn't have to go through what I went through, and that you don't have to go through what my mother went through. And all this other stuff. Like, it's a super unhealthy savior complex that I just cannot shake.
Yes. So I think that's why you and I work so well together, and why I feel a little bit more affirmed. Like, we're not positive we're going to have kids or not. We're not like 100% sure.
Yeah.
We would love the idea, but we're overthinkers. So we're waiting on that
We're
one.
in the high 80s.
Yeah.
High 70s.
But I think as I get older and more like closer to the decision that maybe we'll, you know, decide to have kids in whatever capacity in our 30s, that my job that I want to take on in partnership with you is showing and representing to you a soft place of vulnerability and value that lies outside of those things.
Yeah.
And champions for you to pursue those as well. And I think even if your career and achieving in that capacity is your main focus, I think for me, mental health and physical health and relationship health is so high on my priorities when my career is kind of, you know, mentally on a back burner for me. I feel like that balance works really well for us.
Yeah.
And I think me being the yin to your yang in that situation will model the right, like, reciprocal for you in the case that
I think that's a good takeaway. I think I struggle with it because I've never seen it before. I've never seen what I want to achieve be achieved by not overachieving.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I feel like maybe that is the answer to the question, is like, if you want to help a partner out with somebody who's struggling with overachieving, is show them that they can have a good life without the need to overachieve.
Yep.
And I feel like this is what I'm talking about with how inspirational you are, is that you do that. I don't mean to be too sappy, but I'll never not give you a compliment when it's due. Is that I just feel like you are radiating contentness all the time, and it drives me batty.
That's very nice.
I'm very envious of you, and I've never met somebody with a hunger for life like you, and you're a pleasure to be around. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you. I'm sure we'll unpack my trauma and why I pursue that so heavily.
Eventually, but just take the compliment
Yes,
for now.
thank you.
It's hard because I both use you as a reason to not overachieve and also to really overachieve,
Right.
because you're worth it in both directions. And so it's very hard for me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that wasn't a definitive answer. So
But
let's move on from that.
generally speaking, yeah, I think proving, like, I think there's a lot of, especially women out there who are modeling to men, especially young women, like in our generation. I feel like men are becoming woke to what you're acknowledging. Like I feel like a generation ago, men wouldn't even have like a taste of the feeling you're having.
I know.
And so I think because you have an awareness and you're open to have that conversation, and you're also like willing to adapt and grow.
Not only that, I want to.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah. And I do think there's some more to be dug out with me specifically in that regard. I don't know if I want to share all that right now on episode 1, but I know I'm definitely running away from more things than
Right.
I'm running toward.
Right.
And that's something I have to deal with to
Yeah.
get over this overachieving thing. So
Yeah.
we'll save that for my therapist. No big deal. We'll talk about
You
that.
have time.
Daddy
You'll figure it out.
issues. Woo.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Gordy, do you have anything you want to say to the folks? Because you just hit me in the face as you walked by. Thank you.
Okay, I have one more question. This one was produced by ChatGPT. Are you ready? Okay, so I thought this was a good one.
Sure.
How do you balance personal space and quality time in a relationship?
Oh. Regimented schedules.
Mm-hmm.
Schedule Bibles. Easy.
You've been trained well.
I have.
Young
You make
Jedi.
You make schedules, laws, and then you don't break from them. That's how you do it.
Yep.
You need to carve out time for yourself, and you
Yep.
need to carve out time for each other.
Yes. On God.
On God.
So I only say that, guys, because Dakota's had to come around to my routines a little bit,
God,
and now
I
he
don't
sees the
even want
value
to.
in them.
I know.
But okay,
Being
so
drugged through
yes, so I'm a Virgo, but I'm also like an event planner by trade, and so it's been like lashed across me that you need schedules, routines, checklists, and stuff to survive, and that's just bled over into my everyday life because
Yeah.
I'm a optimize everything queen, because I tend to think I'm a kind of a lazy person. So if I can organize it, then it's easier. So then
You're just efficient. You're
Yeah.
just efficient.
I try to be. So long story short is, I mean, we touched on this in the first part of the episode where, there was a time when Dakota and I moved to Pennsylvania. We didn't know anyone on this side of the Mississippi at all.
Quite literally.
Like literally.
I think I have an aunt in Annapolis.
Yep.
Ironically enough.
Yeah.
Annapolis.
And where was I going with that? What were we talking about?
We were talking about how we don't know anybody on this side of the Mississippi.
Yes. Oh, okay. So we had moved into our rental house and we both worked from home. So we were the only people we knew.
Yep.
We were together 24/7.
Yep.
We just had accomplished the most stressful thing we could have ever imagined, which is leave everything we know behind.
And feeling pretty good about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that being said, after about a month's time, we were like, okay.
What do we do now?
Yeah. And we were just noticing that we were being kind of snippy with each other, or just like being less tolerant of our quirks is the nice way to put it. And we basically added to the like schedule on Thursday nights. We called it solo nights.
Yeah.
And we made it a law. So even if we were tempted to be like, but could it be a date night? Like,
Yeah.
let's say we're vibing that day, we have good energy, you still have to commit to alone time. And here's why. I just got up into my saddle and now I'm on my high horse.
Okay. Giddy up, bitch.
Here's why. Because then if it is a law, there's no emotional turmoil whether or not you should or shouldn't.
Exactly. It takes the emotion out of it.
Yeah, it gets so hard when you're like, oh, we had a really good day and I think you're really handsome and I want to spend more time with you because we could cuddle or whatever. It's like, no, you haven't spent a single night to yourself making your own decisions, eating the food you wanted or seeing the sights you wanted to see without anyone's opinion on it in months.
Yeah.
You need to go do something else, even if it's go get in your car and drive around somewhere else to have your own thoughts and your own space just for a while.
Yep. It's an
And-
objective truth of life.
Yes.
You need time by yourself.
Yes. Yeah. Like journaling, experiencing, indulging. Your thing is like pizza.
Literally, yeah. I mean, it's just indulging in what
Yes.
you like and that I don't like.
Yeah.
Jet would, I don't know what the hell you would do. I could give a crap. I stayed home, watched hockey, ate cheesesteaks, and played with my cats. It was sick.
Yeah. You ordering a pizza.
What did you do?
What did I do? One time I went to like a bookstore. I don't really read, but I just like looked at books.
God, what a nerd.
I've like gone and looked at like clothes, girls, if you want to go to Target and your husband's in a freaking rush, your boyfriend's in a rush or whoever, and you just want to look at every tiny little thing and ponder on where it came from and how it could fit into your life and just like unwind in that way.
Yeah.
I feel like I was like shopping for stuff for the house and like, I like stuff like that. Like I'm a visualizer, so I was like out buying trash cans and really thinking about our future house and things.
And
we
I was
need.
doing research into where our next date would be by eating cheese sticks.
Yeah,
and which
something
one was the
like
best.
that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it was good. There were, but actually when
You
I
remember the time I got pizza fries?
oh my god. You know, Coda,
Oh,
you got a
this state is
cheesesteak
killing me.
and pizza
I
fries
know.
in the same night.
God.
We're only laughing, guys, because I've gone gluten-free, dairy-free this year, so I do not partake in any of the funsies.
If Jett smelt it, she'd die.
Yeah. I was like, holy wow.
I couldn't even eat that. That was ridiculous.
Yeah.
That was way too much.
There's some good delicatessens out here.
Yes, there are. Yes, there are.
But yeah, long story short is it has to be a law. That's what I call it in my own life, because when people set like goals or routines, it's like you, even if you go to the extent of making your phone alarm, but you just cancel it every single time and you don't take it serious, that's when you're not learning trust with yourself. That's when you're not setting your own boundaries. That's when you're like lose sight of who you are. Even on the days where your juice bag is telling you, you know, spending time with your spouse that night is the best thing to do. Going out and just, like I said, having your own space for your own thoughts is just so important.
It seriously is. That's the meaning of juice bag, is that sometimes your thoughts aren't your thoughts, bro. Like you are being trained every day by doing the same thing over and over again. And if you keep doing the same thing over and over again, change is going to be really hard for you, but change is super important. It keeps you growing, keeps you happy. It's good for your juice bag, even though it doesn't think it is. And it's seriously, it's so important. I feel like it's great for us. Like I get to go hang out and do like golf stuff, or like go on a walk, and you got to go do whatever you do.
You make it sound like you don't even know me.
I know.
What do? I go to Soul Cycle.
I know.
I go explore.
Yeah.
I go on walks.
Wow.
I go shopping.
I never ask. I'm just kidding.
Yeah,
I do always.
We
ask.
always know what we do.
Yeah, I know. I'm always calling you and texting you, asking you when you'll be back.
I'm like, leave me alone. Okay. Well, does this wrap up our first episode of Juice Bag?
Yeah. You know, we're going to be figuring out this episode. We're going to be figuring out this podcast as we go. But I think the tail end of this podcast is what I want this to be all about. I want to talk about us and our lives, and how our lives are, and how everyone's lives are.
Yeah.
And how great it is to be alive.
Yeah. I hope everyone enjoyed our little diary. I'm sure mainly family members and friends, or people from high school who are just a little too curious are taking a listen. And, you know, I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you
Sack up. Tell us who you are.
Tell us who you are. Write in a question on our Instagram.
No. I'll see you in September, Mom. Thanks for listening. Just kidding.
Anyway, we appreciate you guys for listening, and we will be back every single week forever.
Because we're regimented queens.
Yeah.
We stick to a schedule.
Yep.
So, see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Juice Bag. Were you surprised by what we said? We were. Oh no, is this on the internet forever? Oh God.
Can't take it off the internet. Hope we don't do this again next week.
Ooh, what if we did this again next week?
Maybe it could be like a thing. Who knows?
See you next time.
Tune in next time to find out.
Or not.
Bye.